Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the last episode of Forbes 15 of our new digital TV channel. My name is Niklas Hintermeyer. I'm a foreign correspondent of the German-speaking issue of Forbes. We have a very cool format for this evening, Forbes Global Insight. Our guest today, I'm very pleased that you have time to talk with me, is the publisher of Forbes Argentina, Alex Milberg. And we will talk, of course, about the current situation, coronavirus situation in Argentina, the economic situation, how Forbes Argentina is doing, and all the businesses. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you, with the Forbes family surviving around the world.
Exactly. Very nice to have you here. Thank you for your time. And as a first question, I would like to go in this current coronavirus crisis in Argentina. At the beginning of March, there were the first infections. And then at the mid of March, the government, so to say, implemented this national shutdown with the restrictions in public life. Experts say it was very early, it was very fast reaction. How did you respond or react to this fast reaction by the government? And do you think they did the right thing by doing it that fast?
I think the timing of quarantines is one of the key points in this pandemic, when at the beginning nobody knows exactly what's going on. So some countries way too much, others maybe didn't. So Argentina indeed took a very tough decision in 20th of March to the lockdown. And we have to consider some situation. Argentina was really in a very, very complicated context, economical context before COVID-19. So it's a very delicate decision for politics to decide how they start and how the impact would be. The president decided that, or he said that he will put health before the economy, but I think it's not really a true condition, because you don't have to choose for one or other one. But I think considering that we have 40% of the country below the levels of poverty, it's very complicated, and I can understand politicians to be very, very cautious in the beginning.
How is the medical situation? How severe is it today in Argentina, but also, of course, in Buenos Aires, where you also have your office? How is the situation? How does it look like?
No, in terms of figures of the impact of death or infected, I think that Argentina has a very positive numbers because the lockdown indeed was really premature, and also Argentina closed the flights. So it was very, very, really tough, the decision that we took. Last weekend, indeed, we have a press conference when everyone expect that we could start to open more activities and even just take a walk with kids. I mean, because this pandemic is, in one hand, the really deep impact that we have in the economy in the world, but in the other one, this conflict, this tension between freedoms of citizens and policies from the government. So it's a very tension that after 40 days of quarantine, it getting noisy around the society. So in terms of health, we are fine. After 20 days, I think that the national system of the health system was improved a little bit. We received more supplies from other countries, but one of the most critical points is the level of testing in Argentina is really low.
Let's talk about Forbes Argentina. As I said before, you have your office in Buenos Aires. How did you react, as a company, as an editorial office, so to say, to this coronavirus crisis? Did you immediately decide to work remotely?
Yes, we did, even before, a few days before that the government implement that. We start to work remote. We produced the April edition just in online platforms such as press reader for Forbes. And also we produce L'Officiel, which is another magazine that we also decide to put it on online. We open the contents. We are doing just free from everyone, not only for our readers. It's like a free subscription. And meanwhile, we are surviving in this quarantine. And also we start some interviews in Instagram with lives with different CEOs and the most relevant businessmen in the country. And we, of course, we have to postpone a half of our Forbes Summit events. We are running with 15 every year. And we have planned at least 6 in the 2 first terms, and we already postponed, hopefully, to start in August. But we really don't know what's going on.
Very interesting what you said, like giving, so to say, the articles for free, like on a platform, like on a web page. And could this be also like a strategy, like a model for the future after the coronavirus crisis, to have a very strong, or even a stronger emphasis like on online, but also, of course, like in parallel running the print editions?
Yes, we already had planned to relaunch our website in Argentina, because when we relaunched Forbes in 2016, at the end of 2016, our strategy was quite weird because it was print first. It wasn't digital first. Mm-hmm. So it was print first because not only because we love print, because we love paper, because we are old school, but also because we really are convinced that there is a long life to the print magazines in the niche of Forbes, in the luxury and in this category. Of course, we launched our website. We didn't invest a lot at the beginning, and we are doing a lot in the last 6 months, and we are relaunching the website next May. In the meanwhile, our traffic the last 40 days has grown 300%. So of course we have a lot of, and we multiply. I mean, we started from yes, our contents daily grow also like 200%, with more journalists, with more translations from articles from US or from other countries. But we produce a lot of local content too.
How is, like, in general, like the business climate, like with the companies and entrepreneurs, like at the moment? You said like after 40 days of lockdown, there's some voice. Okay, I'm sorry, it was a short interruption. And what's the business climate? Like, as a first question. Like a second one, is there enough fiscal stimulus from the government to support businesses?
Yes, the situation is, I mean, it's really complicated. It was before COVID-19, but the lockdown, I think, will affect a lot our country. MIF has estimate a fall of 6% of the GDP at the end of the year. And we have another 4% for the last 2 years and ahead. So it's almost 10% of fall of a collapse of the GDP. And I think that industries are trying to, almost the pymes, which are the small companies in Argentina, are requesting for different help for the government, and the government has implemented some help, which postponed some taxes and given some loans for companies. I don't know, in the last 4 years before COVID-19, around 200,000 small companies closed because the crisis. That happened before. So what's going on now? I think that we are going to the 2001. 2001 was the year when the country went to the default, and also when we had the poverty records close to 50% of the population. So we have this tough danger, and also we have the danger of hyperinflation. Um, is because in order to help people, I mean, we are not US when Trump decide to give $1,200 for every American citizen, because they want to they produce US dollar. So we only produce pesos. It's not the same. And of course, we produce a lot of pesos in the last month in order to provide the companies. But what's going on with that pesos? I mean, we are really here. Uh, we are going to 2001 in terms of poverty levels, and we are going maybe to 1999, when Argentina used to have at least like a 2000 inflation year. Now, yeah. Sorry.
And totally interesting. You mentioned like the 2001 situation, like with the default of debt. It was a very high amount, like 100 billion US dollars. Like also President Fernandez already said, like in an interview in December 2019, so like last year, that compared the situation with 2001 and said like, we are in a virtual default. So how imminent is this threat? Also taking into account like these experiences from 2001.
I think now the difference was that in 2001, the politicians in Argentina declared the default, and it was an ovation, a standing ovation, with the politicians saying, okay, we are going in default, it's great. I think we learned. So the President Fernandez and the government, I'm sure that they are not like to go into the default. I mean, the intention is really just to go to an agreement with the MIF and with the other groups. Now we didn't pay the last payment like 10 days ago. Now we have 20 days in the middle to cancel that debt. But in the middle, Argentina has gave an offer, and now it's in the middle of the negotiation. So the difference is that Argentina really doesn't like to go to the default, and the truth is that Argentina cannot pay the debt now. So I think this context maybe could help in order to understand that it was difficult before COVID-19. Of course, it's really impossible right now. I think this is the only way that I consider that if we can go to a deal with the debt, maybe perhaps we can recover, but it will take a lot of time, a lot of years, a lot of sacrifice.
You mentioned already like the restructuring plans of the government. There was one plan was proposed by the Argentinian government about the 65 billion US dollar foreign debt, and in regard of very strong private investors like BlackRock, for example. It was about like, for example, 62% cut on interest payment, and they shouldn't be paid like for the upcoming 3 years. It was so to say denied or refused by these very strong investors. How do you think things gonna turn out like in this regard?
No, I really like to know exactly, but I think that for the first time in these kind of situations, Argentina apparently has the support of MIF. So MIF, I think that consider that the situation really is very complicated. In one way, some people consider that MIF was also really extremely friendly with the last government to give them a lot of money, even when the guarantees weren't really clear. So I think that the tough situation is how Argentina can convince these big players, as you mentioned, if we can go to a deal. I think that we will have some answer in the last 2 weeks. I really don't know. I don't like to think that we are not going for an agreement in the next 2 weeks. I hope that the local, our government and the Minister of Economy could be very flexible in order to give the best offer that they can do. And I also expect that the big players can accept it. But I think that we will have some news in the next 2 weeks.
Let's talk about very, very important industries for Argentina. It's of course the soy industry and like the meat industry. Let's start with the soy industry. Like I think it's the third biggest exporter of soybean products and like soybeans itself, mainly to China. Now, of course, with all the supply chains being cut, and also like I think the export taxes were raised up to 33%. How did the markets like in this field react, and also, of course, like the farmers themselves?
I think that something very interesting that happened last weekend is that we have a internal discussion in the Mercosur. Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay really they like to sign an agreement for direct agreements with countries like Korea, South Korea, and other countries in Asia. And Argentina refused that option, and it was a very, very tension in the Mercosur about the Argentinian position. Why Argentina refused that? Because they say that in this critical moment, we can't be really open market with another countries, because that could be a final destruction of the local industry or some of the industries. It's not really clear that that could happen. In terms of soy, in terms of meat, Argentina all have two challenges. One is, of course, keep going the very good relation with their principal buyers in China, but we have one problem. We have the local currency really paralyzed. So with the COVID-19, Brazil, Uruguay, and the whole neighborhood has a big impact in the currency. So Argentina today is 20 or 30% more expensive than the other countries. So even when we have good relation with China, why China will buy 20% more expensive than Brazil? So I think that Argentina now has the US dollar is $1 is equivalent of 65 pesos, but you can buy more. I mean, the top is $200 for citizens. And the parallel market now is $1, 120 pesos, almost the double. So I think we will expect also a new devaluation. Just to remember that in Argentina we have the devaluation of the local peso in the last 3 years. It was around 314%. 300%. I mean, when we start with Forbes in 2016, $1 was 15 pesos, 17 pesos. Today is 65, and the parallel market is 120. So in terms of exports for farms, for farmers, from soy, from meat, from everyone, for the local industry, I think we have this challenge. What was going on with the value of the currency?
Very interesting. As a last question, because we unfortunately running out of time a little bit, it's very, very interesting to follow the economic implications. There were some media reports that trade flows gonna maybe shift more towards the United States and Brazil when it comes to soy. So like the demand gonna happen, so to say, like towards these countries. How likely is it gonna be like that's gonna be like a major shift from Argentina even more towards the United States and Brazil, because they're also so far already very big soybean producers and exporters?
Again, I think that it is a crucial what's going on. I mean, in terms of relations, I think that Argentina today has an open vision to go with their products to different countries. But the key point is the macroeconomy. So I think that, for instance, the soy farmers, they have retained some production in order, because they are waiting that the US dollar going up, because they don't like to sell right now the soy with the US dollar in 65, because also they have another price, because for soy people is lower even than 65, because they have the retentions and different taxes. So unless the local macroeconomy improve a little bit, that is not really easy with this international context, with this debt negotiation in the middle, at least after this panorama, it could be a little bit more clear. I think all the industries, soy, meat, and everyone, every little area in the economy, we have to be really prepared for the next. And nobody knows who would be, what would be.
Alex, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your views and having time for us. It was very interesting. We covered a lot of different topics. And of course, for you viewers, thank you for your time and tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow is also a very exciting day again. It's 9:30. Good morning vibrations. My colleague Andrea Glesemann will talk and interview Mai Chen. So tune in and join us tomorrow. And Alex, all the best for you in Buenos Aires and greetings to your colleagues.
Thank you very much for this warm invitation, and it's a pleasure to share what happened here just in the end of the world for you. And it's really a pleasure, and I will be only here for whatever you need. It's a pleasure, and thanks for everything.
Thank you. We'll hear each other soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.